For generations, Africa was the world's greatest paradox. A continent so rich in soil, yet branded poor in potential. A people so diverse in spirit, yet confined under the same word, underdeveloped. They came with ships and flags. They took gold, copper, diamonds, but what they truly stole was time. Decades lost under systems that told Africans what to grow, what to sell, what to dream. But time has a way of turning. Because from the very soil once stripped bare, a revolution was quietly being born. Not of soldiers and slogans, but of satellites, startups, and solar grids. This is not the story of Africa rising. This is the story of Africa reprogramming the world. It began where revolutions always do, in silence. In the fields of Tanzania, AI-powered drones mapped farmlands, predicting rainfall before clouds even formed. Smart irrigation systems learned from the land, tripling yield efficiency. In Ghana, the Safa Agri-Hub trained over 100,000 young Africans in agritech, transforming farmers into food entrepreneurs. And in Zambia, scientists engineered climate-adapted soybean varieties, not licensed by foreign labs, but owned by African minds. This wasn't just agriculture. It was a statement that innovation no longer needed to travel to Africa. It could now travel from Africa. For centuries, global power meant control of oil, gold, and food. Africa supplied all three, yet owned none. But that equation was finally changing. Trade policies shifted. Borders opened within. African cooperatives began setting prices, not accepting them. And sovereign funds, once empty, began investing in African industries themselves. In just 2 years, soybean exports rose by 78%. Agricultural employment grew by 12 million jobs. Meanwhile, U.S. exports to Africa collapsed by 91%, costing over $400 billion in global influence. Washington called it a trade shock. But in truth, it was a wake-up call. Because what Africa had achieved wasn't rebellion. It was restoration of power, pride, and purpose. The West tried to adapt, or rather, to reassert control. New climate-friendly aid packages appeared, wrapped in the language of cooperation. The U.S. proposed trilateral trade deals, Africa-US-EU partnerships. But Africa had learned the difference between partnership and paternalism. They said, "We don't need more aid. We need fair trade." And for the first time, Washington's influence wasn't just fading, it was being replaced. The tremor that began in Africa shook the world. In Beijing, trade analysts called it the dawn of a multipolar economy. China doubled its technology partnerships, investing in African AI labs, railways, and green energy. But this time, deals were written in Africa's terms, profit sharing, not exploitation. In South America, farmers demanded sovereignty over their exports, inspired by Africa's stand. In Southeast Asia, nations began questioning the Western agricultural model. And in the Middle East, sovereign wealth funds poured billions into African agriculture, not to extract, but to partner. Africa had become a blueprint, a symbol of post-Western cooperation. A living proof that development could exist without dependency. But revolutions never start in the present. They begin in memory. Africa's strength was born from struggle, from the warriors who resisted, the leaders who dreamed. Kwame Nkrumah envisioned a united Africa before the world was ready for it. Patrice Lumumba paid for that dream with his life. Thomas Sankara preached self-reliance when it was still considered radical. And Nelson Mandela taught the world that freedom without dignity is only half complete. Their echoes live on, not in monuments, but in motion. Today's coders, farmers, and scientists are the continuation of their unfinished work. This is what the new Africa understands, that independence was never just about borders. It's about ownership of destiny. Africa is no longer the world's raw material supplier, it's becoming its innovation hub. Solar grids power new cities across Kenya and Namibia. Nigerian engineers are building satellites that monitor climate change. Rwandan drones deliver medicine to remote villages faster than ambulances. And in Senegal, coding schools are producing the next generation of global developers. The future of AI doesn't just speak English or Mandarin, it now speaks Swahili, Hausa, and Zulu. Africa's revolution is not about catching up, it's about leading differently. By 2035, Africa will have the largest workforce on Earth. By 2050, it will drive a quarter of global GDP growth. Its markets, once called emerging, are now defining. And its people, creative, connected, unbreakable, will not ask for a seat at the table. They will build their own. This is no longer about soybeans or trade deals. It's about a mindset that the narrative of Africa has changed forever. A century ago, Africa built empires for others. This century, it will build its own. Washington lost more than trade. It lost the story. And in this century, story is power. Because today, the world no longer looks to the West for permission. It looks to Africa for inspiration. This isn't revenge. It isn't rebellion. It's rebirth. The soil that once bore chains now grows opportunity. The youth that once looked outward now build inward. And the continent once underestimated has become unstoppable. Africa has not risen. Africa is the rise. The story of the 21st century will not be written in Washington or Wall Street, but in Nairobi, Accra, Lagos, and Kigali. Because this time, the world's oldest continent is building the newest future. Africa reprogrammed, the revolution has begun.